name's Maui Solomon, and I'm just here to talk a little bit about the traditions of Nunuku Whenua. Nunuku Whenua was the Moriori Tuhunga leader who established or reaffirmed the peace covenant about 500 or 600 years ago. He lived over in a cave known as Tāonga Nunuku, Nunuku's cave, and one day he observed two factions fighting on the beach over here at Karewa Point, and sickened by the fighting, he went over there. He decreed that the men lay down their weapons, they burn them, they set aside killing and warfare and cannibalism, and learn to live in peace and sharing the resources of the land and the sea. So that is known today as Nunuku's law, and it governed the life and the culture and identity and shaped the identity of the Moriori people for 500 years. So this is a very special tapu place for Moriori today. So the whole cave would have been literally moving with seal and bird figures. Sadly, many of them have been lost through erosion over hundreds of years. So this is a very sacred place, and the values and the lessons of that covenant are very important in today's world where, you know, there's a lot of conflict, and even here on the island there's conflict. So we need to try and understand some of those values and lessons from our ancestors and apply them in a modern day context in order to regrow a safer and more peaceful community, both here and around the world. In the background is the beach that Nunuku Whenua would have walked around 500 years ago to confront the two warring factions, and decreed that they lay down their arms, they hongi, they make peace, and never again let there be war as this day has been. And he laid down the curse: the day you disobey, may your bowels rot. And the people obeyed, and they lived in peace, and they shared the resources of the land and sea for 500 years. So this place is very tapu. It's when Nunuku's cave is over here. He came out of his cave, he observed, he heard them fighting, he went around there and he reaffirmed the covenant of peace for Moriori for all time. So when the people first settled here, they were a warrior people. They were from Eastern Polynesia. The first people settled here from Eastern Polynesia. Others arrived from Aotearoa later, but intermingled with ngā uri o Rongo Whenua, the descendants of Rongo Whenua. And the first peace covenant was established by Rongo Whenua, passed down to Mu, to Weke, to Pakeho, finally reaffirmed by Nunuku 500 years ago. So that peace covenant became really critical to Moriori identity, and it meant that they could live and thrive in these islands without fear of being attacked or killed by a neighbouring hapu or sub-tribe. And so it strongly shaped their identity as a people over many, many centuries. They eventually made the ultimate sacrifice for their beliefs in 1835, when others from outside with a different cultural ethos and who brought warfare to these islands. So in 2011 we had a Me Rongo Peace, Sustainability and Respect for the Sacred Congress here on Rēkohu to revive the tradition around the importance of Nunuku's law and the Peace Covenant. We collectively, a whole group of us, some from Rēkohu, others from Aotearoa, others came from the Pacific, and we had Hopi delegates from the United States, Hopi Indians, and we developed this Me Rongo Declaration, which sets out a pathway for non-violent and peaceful conflict resolution processes that are based on the ancient covenant of peace is reaffirmed by Nunuku. And so that was in 2011, and we're now in 2016. We're having a wānanga on Rākau Momori. Rākau Momori is the term for memorial trees, and it's on those trees, or kopi trees, this is a kopi tree, that our ancestors engraved human figures and figures of animals, seals, birds, and other images we're not quite sure about, but that reflected their identity as a people and their joy for life. And so we want to discover more about these Rākau Momori, what they meant, how they were made, the tools that they were used to make them. And because we're losing these trees now, there's probably less than 100 in the bush today. We've had to take out many. We want to revive the art of engraving those trees again for future generations and bring back that art form. So we're having a Rākau Momori wānanga at this time, and people from Aotearoa and Rēkohu involved in that in a collaborative process. And it's a really exciting one. It's honouring the ancestors' art form and the tapu that was expressed on in these images on living trees. We know that Moriori were probably the only people to have carved living trees. And this all relates back to Nunuku's law, the peace covenant, because they had time and capacity to carve hundreds if not thousands of trees around the island, many of them expressions of joy, because they were able to express that as an essential part of their identity before others arrived, outsiders arrived on these islands back in the 18th century.